Hey there, family. Welcome to episode 7 of When the Universe Has Other Plans for You. If you're new to my channel, my name is Peter Gordon, and I'm a graduate student working towards what will be an eventual doctorate in clinical psychology. I also happen to be a life and a health and wellness coach, and I make videos on mental health, fitness, wellness, and everything I hope can help you lead your most profound life. And while you're here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well as the notification bell so that you're notified each week when I post a brand new video. Also, feel free to share this video, like it, comment on it, and all that good stuff. So, welcome to episode 7 of When the Universe Has Other Plans for You. Today, I got the privilege to talk to an old friend from years back. Got to reconnect with him. His name is Todd Youngblood. Todd and his lovely wife Tara are entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, mind you, who've had to overcome a lot of difficulties, tragedies in their life, but somehow managed to put it together.
And right around 2016, back to when you have to pivot in business or in life, we struggled. We got our business to about $2 million a year in sales and just got stuck. We were in financial churn. We hit our balance sheet was under pressure with debt. We couldn't see a way out of it.
Todd was super forthcoming about some of his own struggles and how he sort of worked through those. And it was an eye-opening interview, and it captures the essence of When Universe Has Other Plans for You, which is all about figuring out how to pivot as life throws curveballs at you. I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I had interviewing Todd. Let's get into it. Welcome to episode 7. Holy crap, it's been going pretty fast here. Welcome to episode 7 of When the Universe Has Other Plans for You. I have a really, really special guest today. I've not seen this man in probably close to, I would say over 20 years. I've not seen this man, and it's such a pleasure for me to see him again because it's been years. This is Todd Youngblood. Welcome to the show, Todd.
Pleasure, Peter. It's so good to see your face again, even though we clearly can't see each other's hair anymore.
Yes. We last time I saw you, we both had hair, and clearly our hair has decided to forsake us and moved on to better lives.
It clearly had other plans for us.
Right.
That's right.
Right. Definitely. Yes. So Todd and I go way back, and when I sort of conceived this video podcast series, it was really about tapping into people with fascinating stories, people that I know personally, some that I don't know. But I really wanted to connect with people first that I know and tell their stories and their sort of remarkable lives. And I remember as I was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Sel New Tour, I was thinking about guests, and he said, you know who you should really talk to? And I said, who? And he said, Todd Youngblood. Now, and what was interesting about it was he said, Todd and Tara. Now, this is going to freak you out because I'm a huge podcasts and TEDx and TED Talk and TEDx fan. So I subscribe to them on YouTube. My background initially is in health and wellness coaching. So I'm really big into sleep and making sure that we sort of work with our bodies to function on an optimal level. And sleep is a big part of it. So I remember watching a TED Talk last year, and I saw this woman talk about something called, and this is going to crack you up, something called the Chilipad, and how her journey with figuring out how she had to come to a space where she wanted to help herself, and how that spawned a particular product, and it was all about sleep. And I remember saying to myself, that's true, because I get really hot at night and just don't sleep well sometimes. I sleep well if I'm in nice temperature. But I say all of that to say that it didn't click to me that Tara Youngblood, who was giving this TEDx talk, was Todd and Tara. Please give her my apologies.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you connect the dots. Well, I guess we could both can be grateful for Salem to connect the dots, for us and make it all happen. Yeah, no,
yeah.
She's done some amazing speaking. She's got a heck of a story to tell. So
yeah. It was fascinating to me because as I went back and I looked at the video, I'm like, and I started kind of researching you guys and what you've done. My interest started to peak even more. And we had connected back on Facebook maybe about 7 years ago, something like that. But we would just kind of exchange messages here and there. But so tell me, what have you guys been up to all these years? I mean, do you guys only make boys? Because it seemed like the young.
Oh yeah, we've been up to a whole lot. So the fast forward to the last 25 years, and we were in college together. We started our first business 21 years ago in 2000.
Wow.
We've got 4 boys. We've lived in North Carolina now for 18 years. So
Mm,
kind of got anchored in North Carolina. It's a beautiful place to live in Lake Norman area.
mhm.
And yeah, we've been doing the whole entrepreneurial thing. So we've been responsible for kind of paying our own way and, managing employees for the last 21 years. So I have all
21
kinds of
years.
crazy stories and, lots of failures, lots of successes, and an incredible number of adventures. Flown 2.5 million miles all around the world trying to make deals happen and spent a ton of time in China to find right factories and manage relationships. So it's been a busy but adventuresome last 20 years for sure.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I've been following you on your journey, your various travels to different places and the exotic foods that you eat. And you paint such a very interesting picture. But I know from as a former business traveler that I'm sure that was never easy to do all those traveling.
It is what it is. I mean, it's funny. Just everyone, you figure out your own habits that help you be successful in doing what you have to do. And for me, it's sort of like I could not travel. So by golly, I'm going to make it fun. I'm going to make sure I
Mm,
enjoy it. And I'm going to
yeah,
find ways to, yeah, I don't always enjoy eating some of the really crazy foods or the restaurants that are maybe not quite dialed in,
yeah.
as we say, but hey, it's an adventure. So you figure out how to adapt to it and get some fun stories out of it. So yeah, it's
Fantastic.
always
Yeah.
part of the adventure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keeping it real. I literally would watch your little escapades because you document them so well, you know.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, even now with people with the COVID shot, you can
Mhm.
spend hours or days and say, oh, it's a terrible thing and
Yeah,
you're going to feel terrible after it or whatever the scenario is. It's like, it's a shot. It's going to hurt. Get over it.
right.
Do you
Get
want the
over it.
benefit of it? If so, then move on. Like just,
Exactly.
we just don't, and our kids sometimes give us a hard time. Our kids, our ages now are 12, 18, 20, and 22. So they're a little bit older.
Mhm.
We have so little tolerance to listen to them complain.
Yeah,
You're like, fix it or get over it. Like, don't talk about it. Like,
yeah,
we're okay. You got about 30 seconds, where you
yeah.
can kind of complain about it. And then it's like, do you want to fix that? Or are you going to accept that?
Where does that
Because
come
it's
from?
one of the, honestly, I think it's gotten a lot worse in the last few years, but I think there's just an intolerance to hear people bitch. Like, it's just like,
Mm,
no, just stop.
yeah,
Successful people don't bitch. They solve problems. They
yeah.
don't. There's only enough time in the day to do things that are productive or
Mhm.
burn time squandering your time on stuff that you really have no intention on fixing.
Mhm.
So we're fixers to a fault. We need to sometimes throttle back down and, like, listen to people. Just, they're not really interested in fixing. They just want to talk.
Yeah.
There's a place for that. But yeah, we have a pretty high insensitivity to the complaint department.
So you guys, you guys are very intentional about the things that you try to do, particularly as you parent your children.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. And so much of it, some of it actually was a really interesting dialogue recently with one of our boys talking about, he was almost complaining to us like, sometimes I feel like you treat me like an employee. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. So what do you mean by that? He's like, well, you kind of set a standard and I need to work to that standard and you tell me where to go work and you kind of, it's a high degree of rigor. And, and I'm like, I'm not sure to be, and I don't know if that you find that offensive or
Mhm.
what that really means. There's some love and nurture in there, but
Mhm.
I'm still digesting that. That's something that we talked about just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of it does come from being an employer for a long time. Of we want to listen and be thoughtful and kind, but we also know that we need to keep moving things. We're looking for progress.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. That's fantastic. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your company, which is called Cryo Inc. and the Chilipad system. Can you kind of tell my audience a little bit about what you guys do?
Yeah, so it's been kind of a fun adventure as I think most entrepreneurial journeys are. So in 2004, I was sleeping hot. I was spending a lot of time in China, and my uncle, go back 50 years ago, my uncle invented the waterbed.
No
So
way.
he did, yeah. So you think of, like, he created $1 billion industry in his apartment in San Francisco in the 60s. And, so he was this kind of wacky entrepreneurial guy, very financially successful. So
Mhm.
growing up, there was always kind of this figure around your house. He'd come visit, and he's in the 80s, a guy carrying a suitcase with a phone. And you're like, what? Like, it was kind of crazy, right? It didn't
Right.
like trickle down to our family, but we had this wonderful person in our life. So there was always this entrepreneurial vision that, man, if you do stuff in sleep, like that could be a really big business.
Mhm.
So fast forward, we were solving a personal problem where I'd go to bed, and I've always been pretty active and working out and kind of just staying generally fit. But
Mhm.
for whatever reason, my metabolic changes, or just being heavier, don't know. I've always been around 250 pounds.
Mhm.
I was just sweating like crazy. So I'd wake up with wet sheets or wet pillow, and it's gross, right? It's just,
Mhm.
you're like, what a terrible way to wake up. Because we were developing products for other people, like, man, I think this is fixable. How do we fix this? And you can adjust your bed and the elevation and air versus foam versus spring. So there's a lot of things happening in the bed. But if you're too hot, you can't sleep. So
Mhm.
we started fixing the problem that we thought was about comfort, and we help people be more comfortable. And then we got the product to market, sold it in Brookstone, and started selling some stuff online. And what really changed in our business was around 2012. We connected with an Olympic triathlon, an Olympic athlete, Sky Christopherson, who was at the time a former cyclist that was training women's indoor cycle team for the Olympics,
Mm.
2012 London Games. And basically, he cracked the code of his whole approach was data, not drugs, because there's so much doping and terrible stuff that happens in the sport of cycling. He
Right.
was really trying to find, look, you can find a better way to do that. And we started listening to what he was doing with his approach on using sleep as like a secret weapon for his team because of what the amazing things that happen in sleep.
Mhm.
You touched on with Tara, and she talks about it in her TED talk that we had lost a son, a 6-month-old son had passed on with meningitis. And so we
Mm.
kind of, Tara went through a period of about 2 years of just sleeplessness, just chronic insomnia, and just couldn't fall asleep, couldn't stay asleep. And it was really affecting her health. She talks about in her TED talk about basically driving to school drunk, the equivalent of driving to school drunk,
Right. I remember that.
slept. But basically, so we started changing the approach. Like, maybe this isn't about comfort. Maybe this is about wellness. This is about fixing people's sleep. This is structural.
Yeah.
And Tara, the way she, you maybe remember in college, her background is in physics, so she is a problem
Mhm.
solver to the nth
Right.
degree.
Right.
Loves research, and so she just dug in, and we found that basically when you sleep at the right temperature, particularly colder, you fall asleep faster, so you reduce sleep latency. You get more deep sleep. That's when you generate growth hormones. That's
Right.
when the spinal fluid washes over your brain and takes out toxins. Like, amazing things happen when you get great quality sleep. So it suddenly changed our approach on the product. And right around 2016, back to when you have to pivot in business or in life,
Mhm.
we struggled. We got our business to about $2 million a year in sales and
Mhm.
just got stuck. We were in financial churn. We hit our balance sheet was under pressure with debt. We couldn't see a way out of it. We basically fired all our dealers to start selling business online direct to try to put a little more margin in the business. But it was scary as heck because we had no idea how to do that. I've been
Mhm.
spent 16 years selling retailers. I knew that business. Had no idea how to sell stuff online. It
Mhm.
was scary, and I was ignorant. I don't like to suck at things. I like to be good at things.
Yeah.
And so where that brought us to, as soon as we took the hard path of learning something new and doing something hard in that we didn't understand, it unlocked the growth. And since then, we've grown the business more than 20x in the last 5 years.
Mm.
And so, we've got 80 employees. We're working on a lot of new products. We've been on the Inc. 5000 list. We secured a $37 million investment from a blue chip company, KKR,
Outstanding.
in December. Now we want to be a $1 billion sleep company that changes the way the world sleeps.
You know,
So
it's interesting that you say all that. And I hear so I'm certain within there. I liked how you glossed over the low moments because as anybody who's an entrepreneur, they know that the low moments can be incredibly taxing.
yeah.
Um, where did you mention your uncle? That he was sort of this entrepreneur, like high level type entrepreneur, and so maybe there was some influence from him onto you and onto your family and so on. But where did it come from for you guys? Where do you feel like that you got your entrepreneurial spirit from? Was it a combination of
No,
your family, your experiences?
I think it's just for us, it was internally driven. I mean, I was the guy mowing yards in the summer, working for myself because I worked at the Gap, and I'm like, it's $6 an hour, filling warehouse shelves, and you're in a, and it was in Long Island, New York, and I'm like basically working in a basement at a retail store. I'm like, this is awful. Like, let me go yank trees out with my truck and mow yards and move heavy things, and I'll make $300 in a day instead of, stocking shelves and making, $50 a day. So I think that there was this division of like, I think there's a better path. Tara had very similar. She was always very highly driven, looking, babysitting and working 3 jobs in high school, and just like to work. We just like to work. We like that satisfaction of completing a job and feeling good about it. So there was that element behind us. Um, we had other successful entrepreneurs around us, but my uncle and Tara's uncle and Tara's mom as well as worked for herself as a financial planner. So we had some influence around us. But yeah, there was tons of times where we just hit the wall, and things were extremely difficult. Either, living on credit cards, cashing out our kids' 529 plans, or our 401k plans, or like using every dollar that we had to just find a way to eat and pay the business bills. One of the longest periods actually took us almost 18 months, when we got in a spot where we basically ran out of money. We were out of stock. We had to, and we couldn't clear our product out of customs. And we tried to sell the business. We tried to get investors, and everything we tried felt like it was failing. And, it was a kitchen table moment where Tara and I are sitting at the kitchen table, like, what do we do? Like, do we just shut it down? Do we walk away from it? We lose our house, but at least, we'll find a way out. This isn't life. This is business, right? This isn't going to kill us. It'll just hurt a lot. And then it got down to, if you read the Simon Sinek's Why, and to find your deeper purpose, find the reason that drives you, not just the activity, but the meaning behind the activity. At the end of the day, we couldn't let our customers down. We knew people that were dependent on this product to sleep, dependent to heal. There are people on, recovering from cancer, and the only way that they could sleep was by sleeping cold and get past the chemotherapy drugs that were making them too hot, or all the different customer testimonials that had come in over the years. I'm saying, like, I literally can't live without your product. It's the best purchase I've ever made. And it was like, we can't let these people down. They count on us. We've got to find a way. Sure enough, we were able to find a way. And what had happened to me in this case is we went to our Chinese factory, which oftentimes, a lot of people will speak poorly about, international trade and what low cost China stuff does to our economy and all this. In my experience, because I invested in the relationship, we had a high degree of trust. And I spent a lot of time physically there with them in the factory, in their offices. We went to them and said, guys, we can't pay. We owe you $180,000. And I can't pay you, but I need you to release these goods so I can pay you eventually. But if you release the goods, I'll send a letter saying, if I don't pay you, you can take my house. And if you keep releasing it, I promise I will pay you every Friday, everything in my bank account, every single Friday until we're even.
And they agreed to that.
But they did. And not only that, but you have to keep this debt on the side, and you have to keep shipping me goods, because if you don't, if I sell all this stuff, I still have no money. I'll sell all this stuff, but I'll use the profit of the new stuff to pay off the debt I owe you. And they're like, wait, hold on a second. You want me to keep shipping you even though I don't trust you to pay me? But we got through it, and they agreed to it.
So Todd, you were, and I don't mean to cut you, but for all intents and purposes, you were teeter-tottering on the edge of.
We were bankrupt. Dude. We were functionally bankrupt, not legally bankrupt, but we were functionally bankrupt. Absolutely.
Wow.
So for 18 months, every single Friday, we paid them within $1,000 of our bank account, up to like if we had 10,000, we'd pay them 10,000. They had 12,000, we paid them 12,000 every single week for a year and a half. It was exhausting. Wow. Every single Monday we walked into work, we had to sell some stuff, because if we didn't, we couldn't pay our rent, we couldn't pay our salary, and we couldn't pay our factory.
This is why, and it's interesting, we love to look at social media, right? So this is what, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago?
Yeah, this isn't that long ago. 5 years ago.
5 years ago. And I'm watching you, smiley face, going to China, business trips, writing your, doing nice posts. You're dealing with all this as you're projecting that, you're not pretending like the life is so high and mighty, but you're seeming to be enjoying life. But at the same time, you're dealing with this crisis, really.
Absolutely. And I think that's when you always look at the peel the onion back, you get a couple layers in.
Yeah.
No one's life is perfect. Everybody has problems.
Yeah.
Everybody's dealing with something. I think some people have evolved their tool sets to
Yeah.
manage it more effectively. And
Yeah.
whether it's with meditation or finding a way to be peaceful or whatever the recipe is,
Mhm.
Tara talks a lot about sleep recipes. We've talked about it forever. And for me, I need to stay physically active. I
Yeah.
need to have some spiritual time, whether it's meditation or walking by myself or do something where I stay peaceful. Um, and I need to make sure I'm staying grateful. So whether it's journaling or speaking gratitudes daily. And if I stop doing those three things, and human nature says that you're gonna stop, right? Because they
Yeah.
get hard or it's inconvenient or whatever. Um, things seem to get tougher. But when you
Yeah.
do go through things like, oh, I can get through anything. Like I'm good. Like whatever, it'll work out.
Yeah. You
But
know,
it's
it's interesting. I did a video about purpose, and it's a while back, and I said keys things signs that tell you you're walking your purpose. And the notion of purpose is, and one of the signs I said is when you walk in your purpose, no matter how difficult it becomes, somehow, somewhere, whatever it is, you always kind of figure it out as you go along, right?
Mhm.
And it seems to me that, which again, I'm a huge advocate of sleep, particularly because of what I do. Um, you found that your purpose was in helping people get the sleep, which we know has tremendous mental health and physical benefits. Your purpose was to help people get sleep.
Yeah.
And you simply, the purpose was helping you because it was your purpose, it's allowing you to kind of find a way. And it seems like you found a way for 18 months.
We did. Yeah, we found a way to work through it. It's just interesting how kind of life throws you curveballs and you say,
Yeah.
you get lemons, make lemonade, but it always sounds kind of, cheeky until you're kind of punched in the face and you have to figure out
Yeah,
how
you
to
got to
handle
do
it.
it.
So
Right, right, right.
yeah, and I think, to your earlier comments, I think part of it's just finding a way to listen to what do you need to do next? How do
Yeah.
you go through it? I don't, uh, I'm not smart enough to figure it all out myself. I need to just make sure I listen to like what the things around me, what are the indications around me telling me? What is the
Yeah.
environment telling me? What is situational awareness to some extent?
Yeah. And perhaps letting go of your shame, because I imagine that there was a certain level of taking your pride, put it in a box, going to these guys and say, hey, I need help. I
Yeah.
need you guys to do work this with me.
Yeah, pride's kind of a dangerous thing. I think am I more sort of prideful about the outcome or about the moment in time? And I think
Mhm.
I think it was Warren Buffett maybe that said, you can spend a lifetime um, building your credibility, building your identity, building trust, and one decision will take it all away.
Yeah.
And I think that pride's kind of like that. Like you have to be careful. I mean, this is about a slow investment over time. It's not about sort of like feeling like you're on top of the world. Thankfully, I think we all have prideful moments that are maybe some that are wonderful and a lot, and maybe some that are regretful, and they don't seem to follow us forever, like a bad
Right.
reputation. But yeah, those are tricky. I'll tell you, the last time that I really struggled with that, um, it was, I felt Tara and I have always had we have all kinds of different rules about a relationship and our
Mhm.
entrepreneurial adventure and being
Mhm.
husband and wife partners with kids and all the things that come with that. It was the right thing for Tara to become CEO of our company last March. And it was a kind of an interesting process where there was some indications that I wouldn't say I was failing, but I really wasn't being successful as
Mhm.
CEO. I wasn't accomplishing what we were capable of. And as we talked about it in our walks, we would typically go for morning walks at the time, walking, 30 minutes every day and just talking about things and staying together as a couple. And what became really clear is that I could execute on my vision, and my vision was delivering hardware products to customers that wanted to buy our hardware and sleep better because they would buy the Chilipad or Uller. Tara's vision was just so much grander of how do we change the way the world sleeps with giving them tips and tricks that are far beyond temperature, give them the ability to understand how meditating can, if you just clear your head, that can help you fall asleep faster. If you do box breaths, for example, and different people have different things that will really change their sleep. Like, well, you should lead this company. Like this isn't, you have a vision that's so much grander. Let me support you on your vision. You've supported me on my vision for a long time. We've worked on this together, but it's time for you to take the reins. You lead. And
Wow.
that's been a really fun change because it's so fantastic to see her lead and her vision and her leadership take over, where she was taking a backseat to me, even though she was the smarter person in the room.
Yeah.
She had a lot of things to contribute that she felt would be wouldn't be appropriate to say with me leading the company. But now that
Hmm.
she's able to really kind of own that space a lot more. It's been a fun change.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the really top CEOs, they know how to delegate. They know
Yeah.
who's the smartest person in the room,
Yep.
and they know how to take a step back and say, "Okay, you handle that." But it's always interesting within a wife husband situation, and to hear you describe that, that's not exactly commonplace, Todd. It's very very unique.
Yeah, it is pretty unique, but every relationship's got its intricacies. But I'm really grateful that we figured it out, and I think we're having a lot more fun today than we
Yeah.
have had in a long time.
Yeah, let me you mentioned the loss of your son's name was Benjamin, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And I'm again, my condolences to you guys on that. That's I have a child, and yeah, it's not a feeling I want to think about. So
No, yeah.
um can you share how that loss, how that sort of help you kind of channel your energy into perhaps evolving in business or just changing your lifestyle a little bit?
Yeah, so grief is tough and affects everyone differently, and that was a really hard part for our relationship between Tara and I.
Mhm.
I just didn't understand how she was grieving, and I, unfortunately, maybe for the betterment of our business, but not for the betterment of our relationship, or probably me personally,
Mhm.
I just bottled it up and marched on. Like, well, the business has to get done. We have to pay our bills. We have to pay our vendors. At the same time, we had one of our biggest customers basically go bankrupt at the same time and
Wow.
stick us with a $600,000 bill that they didn't pay, and that took all the money out of our company. So we were dealing with some pretty tough business issues, and I felt like I didn't have the time to grieve. I didn't have the time to deal with it. It's like, well, I'll just deal with that later. It was like a subconscious kind of response. I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but that's definitely what I
Mhm.
was doing. Like, I can't handle this right now. I
Yeah.
just have to march on. What's interesting is fast forward probably 5 years later or so, I was really dealing with a lot of anger issues. I
Mhm.
was drinking a lot more,
Mhm.
and so I found when I was drinking, I would get really angry.
Yeah.
And am I drinking because I'm angry? Am I angry because I'm drinking? Like, it was really hard to figure out. It just took a while to, actually, I would say it really took until within the last year, I just committed to not be angry anymore. There's no
Mm.
place for it in my life. And I didn't really understand, and I, done a little bit of counseling and done some marriage counseling on how do we become a better friend and a better partner. But it really had to do with that commitment to just, for me, in my experience, I think everyone's different, but for me, it was the commitment to just not be angry. No good was going to come of it. It wasn't going to help anybody, wasn't going to improve any outcome or any
Mhm.
interaction. And that's for me really what allowed me to let go of the grief that I think was buried deep down inside me. I was just pissed. Like, why me?
Yeah.
Why do I have to deal with this? Like, why, but I don't know if there's an answer to that. But I did know that the anger was definitely holding me back and was preventing me from being my best self.
Mm. It's so interesting. We talk about particularly with grief and how each of us sort of manifest and deal with it differently. My sister passed away in 2016, and she and I were like thick as thieves.
Yeah.
And when she passed, I did the same thing you did. I kind of bottled it up. And
Yeah.
it's the irony of this is a day after 2 days after she passed, and we get a tax bill from the IRS saying we owed like $10,000. And
Oh,
I'm like, what the heck? Now, eventually, turns out they owed us money in the end, but you had to kind of dance through that, right? So I never had a moment to sit there and grieve, but then you don't realize that it catches up to you. But
yeah.
it sounds like almost like what's interesting is it sounds to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a part of you that said, okay, Todd, this grief thing, this not dealing with this, let me let me tackle it just the way I'm doing in business. This is not going to help. And so is that how you sort of approached it?
I think so, but I think it took a long time for me to even realize it was there to tackle. Like, it was
Yeah.
just kind of like this invisible little ghost in the background that was messing stuff up.
Yeah.
And that was like, it was everyone else's problem. Well, it's not me, it's someone else is doing this. So someone, if they would just freaking relax a little, it wouldn't be a problem. Like, it was definitely, for a while, was not owning that I could change it.
Yeah.
and that I didn't realize that it was so hurtful,
Yeah.
that my anger was really hurting other people. I'm like, wow, well, that sucks.
Do you remember? Do you remember the moment when that clicked? Do you remember? Is it
Yeah,
a moment?
absolutely. We just, and honestly, it was recently. It was in the last 6 months.
Mhm.
It was in late in the evening, and we tried lots of different solutions on how do I stop this. And I think Tara and I were kind of having a little bit of an argument, and
Mhm.
she was crying. She was like, I don't know, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to stay peaceful with you when you're like
Mhm.
this. And I think it was just a moment of clarity of like, well, clearly the issue is anger, and there's no place for it. So I'm going to commit to you right now. It's gone. I will not get angry anymore.
Wow.
There's been a couple of times where I've like, sorry, you could feel yourself, and I don't know
Yeah.
how
Yeah. Yeah.
you seem like a pretty peaceful guy, but I think we all have those moments. I used to have road rage. I used to get angry at all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and that was my thing. I was like, well, Tara, you saw I've always gotten angry, and I think for the thing, it was just different. This was hurtful, and before
Yeah.
it was sort of, it was a joke, and so I just had to commit. Now, when I can feel myself getting frustrated about something, I'm like, is this worth getting angry over?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's just not. It's just
Yeah.
not worth it.
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna come. I can't love when I'm angry.
Yeah.
I can't. It's so dang selfish. That's the other thing. That's the other thing that I had to understand is for me, um, anger was so selfish. I can't think about anyone else positively when I'm angry. It's
Yeah.
only about me. And I'm like, when I connected those dots, I think that's when I realized, like, wow, there's just no place for this in my life.
Yeah. It's a very expensive emotion, isn't it?
Yeah. I had no
Really.
idea how corrosive it was.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you, as this mindset trickle into how you do business?
So we have some contentious conversations
Hmm.
sometimes with our suppliers when things aren't going well, and I'm kind of known a little bit as the heavy of where I come in and I have to be pretty obtuse in those conversations, and
Sure.
um, and it is borderline angry. It's like, how stern is it before it goes from stern to angry? And
Hmm.
definitely there's sometimes like I probably flirt with it.
Hmm.
Um, but I think the difference is when it becomes pure emotion as opposed to tactics.
Ah.
Um, and so I think there's probably a self-awareness that's definitely helping that. And
Yeah.
I think there's probably, if I were to really sit back and think about it, and I probably don't spend enough time really reflecting on these things. So
Hmm.
I love your questions, Peter.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I think it's helping evolve me as a person for sure. And when I, to think a layer deeper about it, it is definitely about being intentional and
Hmm.
understanding that the connectivity of those emotions and those actions, the
Hmm.
when and the how, and it is my approach the most valuable, impactful approach necessary for the specific objective.
Mm, gotcha, gotcha. It's so interesting and fascinating to hear this, man. Again, I like to tell people don't look at the glossy stuff on social media because people have
Yeah.
real lives, and you clearly are an example of that. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't expect to hear all this stuff, and it's just fascinating, man.
Yeah. Well, when you
But
get into it, I'm like an open book. I'll talk about
yeah,
anything. So
yeah, and I appreciate that. But I know you're a busy man. I don't want to hold you too long. But uh, where can folks find you guys about your company, about your products, social media
yeah.
accounts? Where can folks find you to
Yeah.
purchase stuff?
So social media wise, if you're looking to improve your sleep, go to chilisleep.com.
Okay.
If people just don't understand their sleep and they want to know more about it, listen to Tara Youngblood's TEDx talk.
Hmm.
It was in Carrie Woman's TEDx, but a Tara Youngblood TEDx, we'll pull it up.
Gotcha.
Tara also has a book that's available on Amazon if you want to check it out at Sleep Recipe.
Okay.
So how do you find your sleep recipe? Reprogram your sleep, a personal sleep recipe. And
Hmm.
we have a lot of new things coming out this summer too. So we'll have some new product launches. We'll be launching a sleep improvement website that's really not about selling stuff. It's just all about helping people sleep better.
Just giving
Um,
back,
so yeah,
basically.
exactly. And we know that that'll come back around, and we'll figure out a way that, like, how, if there's a way we can monetize it, where we can take that money and produce better content and better information. We'd love to find a way to do that. But yeah, so that's where you can find more about us. Happy to connect with people and kind of contribute back to the world. It feels like it's given me so much.
Exactly, excellent, excellent. And I'll be sure to have links in the description below. So, so if you folks didn't get that, don't worry. Just look below and you'll find all information of this video. Todd, I like to end these discussions with a question that I ask in three parts. That is the same question, and answers might be the same. Totally fine, right? With what you know now, right? And the fact that we both have no more hair, right? That's all right. But what you know now, what would you tell 20-year-old Todd who thought he had it all figured out coming out of college?
Probably start with don't be so angry all the time. But the it, I think don't I shouldn't be so hard on myself. I should have a lot more confidence in myself. I
Uh-huh.
was, I don't know what version of Todd you remember, but it was college was a transformational time for me. I
Mhm.
came into college kind of hiding, and then it was actually Abe McLaughlin. I don't know if you remember Abe,
I
but
remember Abe. Uh-huh.
um, he was the one that asked me to run for college president. And I'm like,
Mhm.
nah, man, I'm this meathead college football player. People
Yeah.
think I'm a dumb jock.
Mhm.
And I'm like, what? You think I'm a leader?
Yeah.
Really? You think I should do that? And I was feeling like hiding. I was not feeling very self-confident. So I know, I think listen and be kind to yourself, because people are a lot more capable than they realize. And
Mm.
you say love yourself. I'm not sure I would have listened to those words to my 20-year-old self, but
Yeah.
be nice to myself, be
Yeah.
confident,
That's
and
so
and realize it's going to work out in the end.
That's so interesting because I remember you when I first met you as a presence. I mean, I was from Jamaica, 145 pounds soaking wet, and this guy with this booming voice. And I'm like, oh, and I was just like, get out of here, man. This is a big guy. So trying to reconcile that you didn't have confidence back then. It's so interesting now to hear you say it now because I thought you were a very, very confident man.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been a fun evolution. But yeah, I
Gotcha.
think it's interesting now, being a parent of a 20-year-old going through some sort of transformational stuff in his life, and he doesn't want to hear it from me, because he's like,
Yeah.
oh, whatever, you're my dad, like,
Yeah.
whatever, you do what you do. And so figuring out a way for him to find his own kind of path, and information source for him to continue to grow and evolve, is that'll be part of his journey.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so the second part of the question now is we've in the world of psychology, we talk about human growth and development. Every decade or so we change, we evolve. Something happens physically, mentally, what have you. What would you tell your now you're married, you have a child, I'm certain at that point, age 30. Um, what would you tell your 30-year-old self? You're in business now, things are full steam ahead.
That was my time. I just moved to North Carolina. Yeah, we had kiddo number three was on the way. Believe it or not, we got going quick.
Wow.
Um, and it's hard to say because I'm not sure I would have listened to it, but it's a marathon, man. You got to kind of
Mhm.
settle down. I was definitely burning the candle at both ends and traveling my ass off, working my ass off. But I think but we were having a lot of fun too. So I was in a pretty good spot in my early 30s. I think it was, but settle in for the marathon. It's not going to happen overnight, and kind of make sure that you kind of keep your bearings and stay nice to people, and, um, spend more time with the family. I wish I would spent more time with my little kids,
Mm.
but
A friend told me once when I was all into the fitness world a lot, and he said to me, "Your daughter is only going to be a year old once, 2 year old once, 3 years old once." So I resonate with what you're saying, man.
yeah.
I resonate. So the last part of this question, knowing what you know now, what does Todd Youngblood tell himself every day when he wakes up and every night before he goes to bed?
So the biggest thing that we learned about a year and a half ago was, if you don't start talking about your dreams, you haven't committed to them. And that
Mm.
was a moment. I'll tell you, it was at a health and wellness retreat. It was a private, invitation only group called Consumer Health Summit, run by a guy named Michael Fishman.
Mhm.
He curated an amazing group of health and wellness people, and it was Vishen from Mind Valley was up on the stage talking to us, and it was a group of maybe 60 people or so. And he challenged everyone in that room right now to, what's your vision? What's your dream? Who do you want to be? And Tara and I had privately talked about, "God, man, I think we can run this $1 billion company, and I think we can
Mhm.
really change the way the world sleeps." That was private. We were not ready to tell anyone about that. That was scary. We didn't know how to do it. We were ill equipped, Maybe we weren't smart enough or not connected enough. We weren't financed well enough. So I would say, if you don't start talking about your dreams, you haven't committed to them. And that for us, like for the next, so it's recommitting to that dream and knowing that this is something. When you have written goals, you achieve more. When you have goals, you achieve more. When you have written goals, you achieve even more. And that stated goal of, we are going to change the way the world sleeps, and we're going to run a $1 billion plus sleep company. That sounds maybe a little bit capitalist, that I'm only focused about the money, but for me, this is so beyond what I ever could have thought possible.
Yeah.
And so the reminding of it just is a reset of my reality, that we can make things happen that seem so impossible, but it does take that changing of that mental space.
Wow, fascinating, man. Todd, it's been an absolute pleasure. Every time I do these interviews, I'm always just super shocked by what I thought about people and what's reality, and I can't thank my friend, and I have to, let me put his name out there again before he says I didn't say anything about him. I can't thank my good friend Sel Newtor enough, because ultimately, he was the one that said, you really should check out Todd. And I'm like, Todd, yeah, let me go back and take a look. Let me look at his profile. I realized I had no clue, Todd. I had no clue you're doing all these things. And I want to thank you so much again for just being so candid, so willing to share. And I wish you guys absolutely nothing but the best. And by the way, I wholeheartedly endorse your product, because I don't know why I never thought about it, because I grew up in Jamaica, and you'd sweat like a pig in the sheets, and just never slept well, But now that I think about it, I'm like, why didn't I think about making the pad cool? So brilliant on you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Well, it's been a pleasure to reconnect with you, Peter. Thanks so much for inviting me. And I'll make sure after this call, I send Salem my regards.
Definitely. Excellent. Thank you so much again.
Awesome. Have a great day, man.
Hey, family. Thank you so much again for watching this interview. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, which is my big face right there. Also, if you want to check out some videos in this series of When the Universe Has Other Plans for You, click this little button right here, or check out some of my other videos. Stay well, family.